What's up folks, hope you're doing well. I'm coming at you today with another video on the drip network. Now this one will not include so many calculations. I'm gonna merely talk about speculation and theory from my part of how I think things can play out into the future, because honestly it's really not looking great, to be completely transparent with you. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I'm just gonna say what I think will happen, and honestly go at it again and say what could happen if things were to actually turn around in a more structured manner. Not just words, not just promises. So don't go anywhere. Alright, so to begin this, first things first, I want to say I'm not going to talk much about the price itself, so where I see it, etc., because honestly speaking, it is what it is. Everyone knows what's happening and why the price keeps falling. We are at a stage where we can no longer blame the bear market for all of these things that are happening. We have to look deeper, we have to look into our structure. Are we safe from an infrastructural perspective, right? And many would argue, including myself, that we're not. Even though most of the drip YouTubers, so to speak, always see a fall in price as a buying opportunity, but unfortunately that is something, yes, averaging down is a very good strategy overall in the market, but you have to understand what the project is in order to understand if averaging down is indeed a good strategy. Now, the way I see it, why would I take the risk right now and average down on an asset that is being produced every single day? So at this point, it is as inflationary as a normal yield farm. So why would I take the risk and not honestly wait a bit more for the price to fall even further? So that is something that I contemplate honestly. So that's why, again, structural differences differ from project to project, hence why averaging down is a bit of a risky strategy in regards to some of them. Now, touching base on inflation, because I said the token became very inflationary. Now, it did momentarily stop printing tokens when Animal Farm launched, when people entered DripBUSD and they were contributing to the tax vault through taxes. And that was a good few days when the tax vault was rising, but then it got depleted instantly. By instantly, within a matter of hours. So that is one of the downsides of having a short-term solution to a long-term problem. But again, that doesn't negate the fact that the farm really helped the price, not the price, but the tax vault overall, because it did the opposite to the price where people were taking money out. Now, there's a small theory that I actually saw the other day on one of our Telegram chats that I've been thinking about as well, and it caught my eye, and I think it's pretty interesting in regards to how could Drip V2 be narrated and be introduced. Now, you all know, like, I'm just going to reference this small article here in regards to inflation overall, because everyone takes inflation as something that is devaluating their currency, which is of course the base definition of it, and at the same time prices rise, you have to pay more for the same amount of whatever you're buying. But something that isn't being touched on so much is inflation and debt. So how these two are related, and more specifically debt inflation. Because if you owe someone money and that amount, let's say $1,000, a year from now, if you still owe them that $1,000 without added interest, they are the ones who are gonna get the short end of the stick, right? Because with inflation, that debt's value is rendered less. And that is something that governments, like the Hungarian government, for example, that experienced hyperinflation, found a solution after they did experience that, where their first currency called Pango depreciated by, I don't know, 1/1,000,000th of what it used to be, if not more. And then they introduced a new currency where they were redeeming, I think, about 1 billion of this currency or 1 million of this currency to one of their new currency called foreign. So Following this example and following these footsteps, sorry. I mean, I'm just gonna check the spreadsheet right now. But going back to Dune Analytics, where I like to see how we're doing, ever since I covered this, so basically a few days back when I talked about how much is the faucet, total faucet size overall in the ecosystem. So the faucet obligations, they were about 62.8 million. So that's about what, 10 days ago. Now if we go and check right now, they're about 67.8 million. So that's an added 5 million. So 5 times the original total supply as faucet obligations. So that is, yeah, so that's an added 5,000 tokens a day. 50,000 tokens a day that are supposed to be printed for investors to deal with, right? So at some point, this number will exponentially rise, and there will be a time where that is too high, and the price honestly has to drop down a lot if we don't have additional income, if we don't have additional utility, etc. So there will be a point where the price will be honestly really low, and people are gonna be buying bulks of drip in order to compensate and try to actually make some money. But with the max payout being there, that puts a ceiling, and at some point when the price is really not worth it, then it stops, right? And when buy stops, then it's all sells from here on out, and then it's a huge death spiral. So what could happen in drip V2 is that debt inflation, which I just mentioned a few moments ago, is where you're replacing your old currency with a new one. And that could be the case. So imagine right now I have 70 million in faucet obligations. So that is essentially the amount of tokens that should be paid, okay, minus the claims, minus the tax, but with maximum payout, it's more actually. So 70 million tokens, let's just take it very simply from here on out. So 70 million tokens to be paid at the current price, including an average whale tax, because we do have max wallets, we do have wallets above 10k drip per wallet, so per faucet in their wallet. So assuming there's about 92.1 million dollars to be paid to these investors. Most probably it's gonna be more because, like I said, max payout included. So let's say from 92 to 100 million to be paid. How much is drip getting in buys on a daily basis? Not more than 100k recently. So that will take a serious load of time, assuming that our faucet obligations are not increasing, which they are, as I previously mentioned, and assuming that not a single sell is happening from the new guys bringing that money, which is almost definitely a very low probable scenario. Now, if you introduce a new currency where you redeem drip V2, old drip V1 for a new drip V2, a brand new drip V2, 100 to 1, a 10 to 1, what you do here, you essentially reduce your faucet obligations with a price that is relatively similar to the old drip price, and thus you are lowering the debt on the protocol. And by doing so, you are opening opportunities for more people to flock in and then to have a brand new product that you can market. Now, the cool thing here and the bad thing, I'm going to discuss both. The cool thing here is that will be very attractive to new users if the new tokenomics are better, if you have actually, and if you do that once the utilities are in place, meaning you have external revenues, you have buybacks, etc. Now, buybacks I don't really like much, to be quite frank, because buybacks bring short-term appreciation, because usually if there's a buyback without any fundamental change, it's gonna get eaten up. But assuming you have utility, you bring this out, you investors are gonna be enticed to enter. The bad news is, for old investors who entered recently and who haven't profited yet, they're gonna be in the gutter, unfortunately. So they're gonna have to average down in drip V2 to make up for their loss in drip V1. I mean, you cannot please everyone, and I don't think this is a good solution, honestly, but I honestly, at this point, I don't see any way out of this. Any new income that would come into drip will get eaten up buy these 150k wallets that are most likely at least having 50% of them claiming their drip at this point. The drip USD farm is honestly not enough, like not close to enough to compensate for all of this. Even every utility that is gonna come in is gonna get eaten up, in my honest opinion, with our current structure. Now, I heard that someone mentioned some single asset pool where you stake drip, you get BUSD, but like adding pools and layers on top of where is the money gonna come from? You're gonna dilute that money from the pig pen or whatever, duck pound, to put it into this pool. So now you have 3 pools that are generating money from the same source, and each of these 3 pools is getting less and less because you're adding this part. So you're gonna get what? 1 cent per drip staked, or what, 0.1% a day. There's no incentive to enter that, so it's going to be rendered useless. I did mention this previously. I think the animal farm should have launched with drip and another token, drip being the governance token. That was supposed to happen. That was something that should have happened. Honestly, that's my opinion though. Imagine instead of PigPen, you stake actually drip and get the USD, but that is the pig bank version. Let's call it the drip, I don't know, foundation or whatever you want to call it. So that's better, right? So assuming you're getting the same returns that you're getting in PigPen, but for drip, I would reckon this would be a better solution. All of these other farms spread with drip or whatever. So that should have happened, but it didn't, unfortunately. And now we're here. Now we are here. And from a logical perspective, the team would rather market their animal farm with 100 million plus in total value locked than drip with a 99% drop in its price over the course of a year so far, right? And that's what they're doing, unfortunately. They're marketing the animal farm first and drip after. I mean, look at the chart. So I would never buy into this chart, honestly. I'm just being honest and transparent. You need to change the fundamentals. You need to change the structure in order for people to actually find incentive to buy into drip. If I'm introduced to the ecosystem, I would rather put money into the animal farm, honestly speaking, than into drip. So at this point, with how inflation is running, with how everything is happening, I don't see any other way than to restructure the whole thing, do a redeemable solution for a new token, and try to come up with a better product and satisfy at least the highest number of investors as possible throughout time, which they will if they actually do this. They have the money, they have the liquidity, they have the connections, they have the community. Everything is there. You just need a small push and, of course, transparency and timely updates and releases. Alright, that's it from me today. Thank you for sticking around and listening to everything I had to say. Now, I really hope I brought you some value with this. But like I said, I cannot take credit for all of the information here because I did hear bits and pieces about, for example, the debt inflation part, so the theory behind this, and also me having this idea previously, so I kind of glued things together to basically put my thoughts into this video. But again, I really hope that you went through this, you didn't cut short, and you listened to everything I had to say. Because I really think as a community we should come forward and start thinking logically of how the future of all of this is gonna be. Yes, granted, nothing is too big to fail, and granted, pride sometimes puts people in places where they become, I don't know, in a spot where they have to make decisions, but then they rush them, they make bad decisions, and so on and so forth. So we really need to turn this ship around, and I think we can. It's gonna take time, but we gotta be transparent and honest and not bash people for being concerned and putting their thoughts out there. Unfortunately, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. It's long away from all of this, especially with the macroeconomic factor and the situation in the market in general. So now is the time to actually be honest, be transparent, and try, like I said, to turn things around. With that being said, a sub to the channel would be amazing. It really helps us, new kids on the blog, dish out better, more valuable content to everyone, and expose this word we love the most to more people. So I thank you and appreciate you in advance for doing so. Now also liking and commenting would help. Now I reply to everyone, and do so if you really want to do it, not just for the sake of doing that, right? So I welcome criticism. If you have opinions about what I just said, if you think otherwise, if you have counter arguments, please list them out. We can have a small discussion. You can also hop in on Telegram. We have a nice community, chill guys, away from the noise, links below. And I can't wait to have a discussion with you about drip and whatever else we might be invested in and whatever else topic we might be speaking at the time. With that being said, as always, take care of your finances and trade responsibly. This was Roy with DeFi Ascension. Thanks for watching.